3 rings for the elven kings under the sky.
7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone.
9 for mortal men doomed to die.
1 for the dark lord on his throne.
In the land of Mordor, where the shadows lie.
1 ring to rule them all. 1 ring to find them.
1 ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them.
In the land of Mordor, where the shadows lie.
Welcome, everybody, to Here Be Dragons. I'm John Webster. And with
I'm
me,
Nessie. If you guys don't know.
And there's somebody missing today. Steven isn't here, so we've got the car keys.
Yeah, Dad left us the keys to the house, and it's time to party.
So we thought that we would talk about something that we both love a whole lot, and that is everything J.R.R. Tolkien. The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, The Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, everything.
All of it.
And we also decided that we're going to, because we did in our Slack group, we put out a poll to see what people wanted us to talk about. And most people said Tolkien, but some people also voted for sort of just a Q&A with us. So we're actually going to set aside some time towards the end and probably run a bit over. And you guys can just ask us whatever you want if there's anything you all want to know. But for now, we're going to get started with talking about Tolkien. I've talked about it in the past over on my channel, but how did you get started with Tolkien, Nessie?
Well, back when I was a wee bab, probably, I remember it very distinctly. I was 6 years old. I was in the 1st grade, and we had an accelerated reading group. And the book that the teacher chose to read with us was I assume it was the official version that came out in the mid-70s, because I'm that many years old, of The Hobbit. And so we read it all together, and then we did lots of projects. And thank you, dear.
Very important.
Yes, we did projects and about it. I remember making a little golem out of clay. It's somewhere at my parents' house now. It was really ugly, but but that's what got me started, and I've loved it ever since.
Yeah, I know I started. It's hard to pinpoint because I did see the animated version of The Hobbit when I was a little kid. Gollum scared the crap out of me, but then I read the book for the first time, and I think it was my 10th grade English class. And I just fell in love with it. From there on out, Bilbo became just one of my favorite all-time characters. And it wasn't too long after that I found out that they were making the Lord of the Rings movies. And so, I obviously it was just like a domino effect at that point. I just got more and more into it. And I think you could ask anybody in my family, they'd tell you that me from like 2000, I was going to say 2000 to like 2003, 2004, but the truth is for years on end, it was just like nonstop Lord of the Rings this, Lord of the Rings that.
It's still going, guys.
Yeah.
So just want to take a minute to look through the chat. We've got some great folks there today. I'd like to welcome Inara Geek. Hi, thanks for coming by today. Appreciate it. We've got Ridiculous Ed, Alicia Kingston, Sansa Bess. This is their first time watching one of these streams live. Good to have you here. Got OTDA, of course, Lady Leaf, Florista Fox, and Kutlinski's here. Sunflower Beth, D-Cell, Jaded Redhead, Kadar, all the regulars, Danny McKay. Good to see you guys here with us today.
It's great, and it's very nice to see Beth there too. She's, we haven't seen her for a little bit in the Slack. It's wonderful, Beth. I hope you go ahead and come hang out with us because we miss you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so
And
God,
what was it about Tolkien that really just captured your imagination? Was it the writing? Was it the characters? Um, what was it that just drew you into it?
it's so funny because I've spent so long just obsessed with it that it's hard to think of what it is that originally pulled you in. I mean, since it was The Hobbit that started, it was probably the sort of down to earth comic relief of Bilbo, where you come into this story and he really is the audience's or the reader's vantage point, where you have all this fantastical stuff being sprung on him. You know, he's just this he's this poor guy who wants to be left alone and live a simple life. And all of a sudden, he's got his little hobbit hole overrun with dwarves, and they're making a mess. And all of a sudden, he's being swept away on this journey. I mean, I think that can suck anybody in. Even I know my mom, who was hesitant to get into all of this, but I said, at least read The Hobbit. And she just fell in love with The Hobbit from the beginning. She thought it was so funny the way Bilbo was just getting all excitable, you know, as the dwarves are making a mess of his place.
Yeah, and that was the first story that was published. Am I remembering correctly, John, or
yeah,
am I wrong? Yeah.
So I mean, he was writing a whole lot of stuff for years before that, but yeah, no, and it wasn't even originally connected to his larger legendarium, because there's actually there's a lot of differences to The Hobbit in the original version that was published that some things that we would be very strange to people who are used to the book nowadays. The elves were called gnomes. And the whole scene with Gollum is a lot different. He sort of willingly gives Bilbo the ring,
which is so against everything, in the later stories. So
yeah, and they actually use that in the Lord of the Rings, where the Gandalf and Frodo talk about a sort of fake story that Bilbo told about it being a present, and really what that's relaying is the story that was originally told in the first version of The Hobbit.
Yeah, which I thought was really, really kind of cool, because it was like Bilbo unknowingly took the story that Gollum was telling himself all these years, that it was his birthday present, that the ring was his birthday present. And so Bilbo just kind of adopting that in unknowingly. Oh, it was a present. It's a gift. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. And I also thought it's really cool how the Hobbit, it starts out with an unexpected party, and the Fellowship of the Rings is a well-planned party, or a long overdue party, I think the name of the story is. So they're both starting out with a long expected party. Yeah.
Yeah, we should mention that we called the stream an unexpected party because it's a party. We don't have Steven here. We're finally rid of him now.
I thought he'd never leave.
Or as we're fond of saying in our Zoom chats, oh, finally.
Those marathon Zoom chats, guys, they're the things of legends. So there's probably one going on right now, but
it was still going this morning. So
it stayed. I was out running my errands, and I just kept looking down, and they're still going. What? It's been 16 hours? Don't you people ever sleep?
Oh, I hope you feel better, Bernie. Thanks for stopping in.
Oh, thanks for stopping in, Bernie. It's the weather, all the weather changes, the pressure. I'm sorry. Migraines are the worst. Get better.
Oh my God. I love the blunt vibe. song.
That's what Bilbo Baggins hates, absolutely. And I really relate to this, when I have got a house full of people that I just landed on my doorstep and they're just in my things and in all the stuff. And I'm like, get out of my stuff.
Quit people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, anybody can appreciate that because you hate to have uninvited guests all of a sudden just show up at your house. And so
one
it's
or two, that's okay. 3 or 4, 10.
and it's the fact that they keep coming in, either one at a time or in pairs, and it's like, when is this gonna end?
And that's what he was thinking. He was like, oh my God, there's another one. Oh, going to the cupboard to make sure that there's something to eat for everybody, because it's very important. Hospitality is a very important thing among hobbits. Their whole society is manners and offering the guests something to eat and to drink, and it's always time to eat. It's always time for something, and that's like really a big play on Southern hospitality, which a lot of us, in North Carolina, Florida, wherever. You never went to grandma's house, which didn't have something for you to eat.
Your AC should be working a little better now.
So yeah, what's I guess because we can just jump all around, because it's not like we could go beat by beat through like every story, but we'd be here for a very long time. What's your favorite book of Tolkien's?
Oh, it's hard, but I mean, Hobbit is just so close to my heart. I really just have to probably name that one. As far as close second would be, I think, The Two Towers. Yeah, just because of the Ents. I love the Ents. We get so many good speeches, I guess, monologues or whatever in the Twin Towers. They've got such great ones. So yeah, just nostalgia would have to be The Hobbit, but literary wise, I think it would be The Two Towers. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably The Hobbit. If I'm honest with myself, I sometimes I like to say, well, the Silmarillion is my favorite, and in a lot of ways, I think sometimes I do feel that it is, because it's such a vast mythology, and I really love the scope of the stories. But then when I'm honest with myself, I'm like, I just have so much affection for The Hobbit, and a lot of that is Bilbo, and he's kind of remained, if not my absolute favorite character, at least one of my favorites. And so much to the point that when I read Lord of the Rings and I realized that he wasn't going to be the main character of the story, I was like, oh no.
What?
It's like, who's this Frodo?
Yeah, it's like, I don't even know this guy. Some bit character. I don't know.
So it's always a joy for me when I go back and read The Hobbit, and there's something about the simplicity of, you have Bilbo Baggins and Gandalf showing up saying, I'm looking for someone to, I'm arranging for someone to take part in an adventure, and there's something so innocent and timeless about that, and it's just fun to get swept away on that journey before things get like really epic and dark with the Lord of the Rings.
Right. I mean, how cool would it be to have like this weird magic guy with the epic beard showing up at your house and like, oh, wait a second.
Well, you already know that.
Yeah, we're gonna go on an adventure. So it's like, I mean, so against what hobbits are not really, they're not the adventurous sort. A big adventure for them is like changing up the weekly menu or something. That's being adventurous. Maybe trying a new food, preparing turnips a different way. But yeah, Paydar, our resident troll. I love you. Yeah, so just the unexpected, and just he's continually off guard, like the entire time. I was like, it's just the way that it's written is it's so well, because you as the reader are kept off guard, just like Bilbo is, like for the entire adventure. And being a little kid, you're just thinking about how great it would be to go on one of these magical adventures like that, because you're like experiencing the wonder at the same time. And even the pitfalls are like, oh, like with the when the party is captured by the trolls, or when the party is captured by the spiders, or they're bobbing down the river in the barrels. It's just good. It's just good fun. So not too awful scary for a young kid.
Yeah, and I actually think that kind of informs, as Frodo sort of, he follows in Bilbo's footsteps in a way of setting off, and it's, I think the fact that The Hobbit is such an innocent journey, it sort of sets the stage for what Frodo expects in The Lord of the Rings.
Right, because he's heard about Uncle Bilbo's adventures for all these years, and oh, this is going to be a grand adventure, and we're going to meet some interesting characters, and and come back with some treasure, an interesting story. Not so much.
Yeah, exactly. I do like that moment in the film version of Fellowship of the Ring when they get to Rivendell, and him and Sam have that moment, and he's like, I am ready to go home. It's like, it's not going to be that easy, Frodo. It's not just this quick adventure, and then it's...
I mean, that was a big adventure for a hobbit who never left home, just the first part of the journey, where they're just getting to decide how they're going to take the journey, is like a tremendous amount of excitement for someone like Frodo. I mean, the whole encounter at Weathertop, that is just like, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go home now. I've seen these big scary creatures. They're trying to kill me, and yeah, I'm ready to go home. So it's got a different feel, like you were saying. It's a little more grown up, type of story. Even though it's still accessible for a younger audience, it's bringing in the darker elements. And I was a little older when I read it, so I was able to comprehend a little what was going on. The words got bigger. It's that the appendices in the back are real big, because I don't know about you, but I love to read the appendices, and you get a little bit of the backstory and everything. So
yeah, I think what's great about the way Tolkien writes is it is accessible to children, but it's not talking down to a young audience. It's dealing with very heavy themes and issues, and even The Hobbit, which people call a children's story, but the end of that story gets quite heavy. So
yeah, and these are all stories that he was telling his own kids.
mm-hmm.
Could you imagine having Tolkien as a dad? Like, you never know what your bedtime story is going to be. Is it going to scare the pants off?
Who's this imposter?
Who is that? I don't know. It's probably a bot.
I didn't write that. Did you write that? I can't think of anybody else that it would be. Yeah, ignore that, folks. It's hackers. God.
I think it's a bot. I'm not sure, but.
So what was your experience seeing the films?
Oh, wow. So of course I saw them all in the theater. I was so excited. I was so excited when I heard they were going to be made, and like, Peter Jackson, who is this guy? Let me see what he's done. They're like, oh, yeah, this is going to be great. And it was. I mean, just the, I wasn't part of the, internet culture or anything at that time, so I wasn't reading, you know, I wasn't up on like all of the casting and whatnot. So when it opened, it was, I had seen the trailers. That was about it. I'd seen the trailers coming in, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. And the cinematography and the CGI looked really good. I was like, how are they going to manage to bring this incredible world to film? How are they going to manage that? Because it's just so sweeping, and you're thinking, oh man, are the orcs going to look cheesy? How are they going to get the ints right? And they just, man, they really just knocked it out of the park as far as visuals and scope and the score. I mean, it was just chef's kiss. And trying to squeeze such a huge, expansive story, they did a wonderful job of just doing it in the trilogy format. So instead of just trying to squeeze everything into one movie, I mean, there's no way they could have done that. So
I mean, it's one of those things where we're so used to being cynical about studios, and to be sure, this was not a selfless act on the part of the producers, and there was reason to think that this was a good, it could be a good financial idea, but it was still a risk that when Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens went to New Line, which was their last resort, basically because all the other studios had turned them down.
It's a huge investment and a huge commitment,
Yeah, the fact that Michael Shea and Robert Shea and Michael Lynn basically said, why would you want to make 2 movies out of this? It's obviously 3 films. It's like, I never tire of hearing that story because it's just something that you wouldn't expect to hear, and it was absolutely perfect because
right.
I shudder at the thought of trying to make this into 2 films, and the way it ultimately turned out. People can be kind of, for a lack of a better word, again, cynical about the way things kind of turned out later. Obviously, the Hobbit films weren't as well received, and there were kind of issues with that production. But during the time of Lord of the Rings, it really did feel like everything was aligning perfectly, and that there were so many serendipitous moments in the production and how the films came out. And there's a reason why for years, when it came to the movies and anything involved with Lord of the Rings, people were like, trust PJ, as in Peter Jackson, because it's like everything with those movies just turned out so perfectly. It was wonderful.
I think we both agree that, had they done the Hobbit trilogy as just maybe 2 movies would have done it better justice than maybe reaching for 3. I mean, I'm not a director. I can't, I'm not going to be a Monday morning quarterback either, but what do you think, John? Do you think it would have been, we've talked about this.
I think it came down to the fact that times had sort of changed and technology was in a different place. I think that some of the problems with, I don't want to talk too much about the Hobbit movies because there's lots of.
I mean, there were good things. There were good things to say about it.
There were. I just think that the Lord of the Rings came out at the perfect time when they had the technology to do certain things, but things weren't advanced enough for them to go overboard. They could use what they had when they needed to, and the rest of the time they had to use their creativity to
character interaction and character driven, and when you had to do like the big expansive battle scenes, that obviously, that was a great time to, to CGI in, the massive army of their Hiram, charging over the hill. That just gets me, but other times when they're just focused in just on the character interaction, it's just phenomenal, which is what it's about, so they kind of caught lightning in a bottle, I'd say.
Yeah, I do actually want to recommend a book for people who may not know about it. It's actually called Anything You Can Imagine. Peter Jackson and the Making of Middle Earth. This basically takes you through the entire production of The Hobbit from its very beginnings. Not The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, from its very beginnings through to the film premieres and afterwards. And it's like, if you're ever nostalgic for those times of when the movies were coming out, read that book. It's going to take you back. I just had a ball reading it. But yeah, it's that was a very sort of magical time for me. Now, something else I discovered before the first film came out was actually the BBC radio drama. Now, have you ever heard that, Nessie?
I probably have. I listened when I was younger. Weird thing that I do. Like we would get a lot of those on vinyl, and it would be in our library. So sometimes, I would check out a lot of the old radio type shows and listen to it we'd have it for projects and, like just for fun kind of things. I was a big nerd kid. I spent a lot of time in the library. So, and that was back when, you had the big headphones and the big jacks that you just plugged in so everybody could listen to it, like 4 or 5 of them. So yeah, we would listen to things like that, and it was pretty cool.
I just want to pop this up. I haven't seen the whole thing. I've seen parts of it, which is, I don't think it'll surprise anybody to learn that it's not exactly my cup of tea, but I did want to watch some of it just because it's Peter Jackson. But I do like some of his other films, like The Frighteners, which I enjoyed even before Lord of the Rings was on the radar. I remember enjoying that quite a bit, but yeah, I have to sit down and try and watch some of those early splatter films.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to be sure. But no, what we were talking about with the radio drama, it's probably the most sort of, what's the word I was looking for, sort of loyal adaptation to the book. I mean, as much as I love the films tremendously, they're my favorite films of all time. But if you're someone who's looking for, like, direct passages from the book, the BBC radio play is fantastic, and the cast is great. Some of the characters sound quite a bit different from what we ended up with in the film version, but they're nonetheless great performances. And I probably listened to it over a dozen times before the first film came out, and I think it's ended up in multiple kind of formats. And when I listened to it, it was assembled in like 13 episodes. I think later they re-edited it so it's a trilogy, like, so you can listen to all of the Fellowship of the Ring, then the Two Towers, then Return of the King. But either way, it's a great adaptation, so I definitely recommend that one.
It's almost like an audio book, except that you get like the sound effects and you get the songs, and it's just a different format to to enjoy it in. So
yeah,
if you ever listen to any of the old radio dramas, they're really awesome. You ought to give them a try. There's a bunch of them you can find on YouTube.
Yeah, and Ian Holm actually plays Frodo in that version. And I'm sure a lot of you know Bill Nye. He plays Sam,
Wow.
which he doesn't sound at all like himself. That is so a young Bill Nye, because
He's got such an iconic voice. I have a hard time, relating the guy who,
yeah, he sounds so innocent
villains,
in that, which is weird because that's not how you would characterize him. Innocent is not what you
No.
when you think of Bill Nye. But yeah, lots of, and actually Peter Vaughn, who played Maester Aemon in Game of Thrones, he does the voice of Denethor.
Wow, what a great part! What a great part for him.
Yeah, so there's
now that's my canon.
yeah, there's a lot of great actors, so I definitely recommend looking that up. And there's a couple different radio play versions of Lord of the Rings, so do make sure if you're looking, it's the BBC 1980s version. So, but yeah, so
late to the game on the Silmarillion, as most people are. I mean, it's not an easy book to read, the first time through. It's really, it's daunting, for, a first time reader. It's because you look at it and you're like, I've seen smaller Bibles, and with the way, and that's kind of, in a way, that's sort of what it is. It's like Tolkien's imaginary Genesis, Genesis, Exodus, all, his Bible, so to speak, his creation story, the battles, the all of the ancient battles, the past. When we're introduced to the world, it's already formed and created, and it's just, you're dropped right in the middle of it. In The Hobbit, you get bits and pieces of, there's some really old things here, but you're not really told a lot about it. You get more, of course, and in The Lord of the Rings, you start picking up more of the backstory. Hi, Sandry.
Hey, Sandry.
Easter eggs and just little tales here and there, like when Aragorn is talking about, the Baron and Luthien story, and you're like, I wonder what that's all about. So little Easter eggs before he drops the big mega tome on you, and it's like, okay, here's all the backstory. Go for it. Creation to, the final, not the final battle, but through the end.
So when did you come to the Silmarillion?
Probably it was over summer vacation. That's when I did a lot of my heavy reading. So I would, I'd go to the library, and once a week or whatever, my mom would, or my grandmother or whoever would take me up there, and then, I'd get my stack of books for the, couple weeks and go back. And it's like, yeah, I'd read The Hobbit. I'd read the Lord of the Rings, and of course I knew the you could read things in the appendices of them. So I'm like, yeah, let's go ahead, let's get this, So I was probably, I wasn't that old, so maybe 10, 11. I picked that up. I picked up, I think, Unfinished Tales, and
what? 10 or 11? Oh my God. Yay, you. I could never have done that.
Well, I mean, I liked it. So, well, I was an adventurous reader, I guess.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it was intimidating enough to me, and I was like 18 or 19. And so, but
I had a lot of time on my hands, dude. I had a lot of time on my hands. But yeah, and
right, Kelly? That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
No, that's great. Round of applause. I'm
now, I'm not saying that I understood everything. That's my first read through. I read it that summer. I read that and the Unfinished Tales. Here I go home with this big stack of books, It's like, and the Silmarillion's in there, talk about that. Oh yeah, I'll get through this in a couple of weeks. Whoo, no. It's like, okay, I'm going to have to just check this out a couple of more times to get through it. But I was a little confused because it was, like I said, my first read through, and getting both Unfinished Tales and the Silmarillion at the same time. I'm like, these stories aren't exactly the same. You'd think I was rather confused by that. But yeah, it was a good summer read, and of course I've read it several times since then, and I am not a genius. I was just a lonely kid.
I'm just going to keep putting that same one up because it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
No, so I mean, I came to it after Fellowship had come out in theaters, because I guess probably because I had actually, you know what? I don't even know that I intentionally saw it. I was going to say probably because I was starved for more material, but as I recall it, I was in the bookstore in the mall, as you know,
As you do.
As you do. And I was just sort of, walking around looking, and I got to the Tolkien books, and, I'm never against like just fawning over books in a bookstore that I already have, because I just like, looking at them and going through the pages and stuff. But then I saw this little golden colored book, and it said the Silmarillion on it, and then it said the history of their elves and their war against the dark power, in Middle Earth in the First Age, before the Lord of the Rings. And I'm like, holy crap! Like, that sounds amazing. And and bought the book just like without even hesitating, went to sit down, opened it up, saw that it started with, there was a Rue who's called a Luvatar, and he made first the Ainur, who were the offspring of his thought. I'm like, okay, this is going to be different.
Oh yeah, this is not starting off with a party.
Yeah. But I soldiered through the stuff that, was sort of tough to understand. And I mean, the appendix was like my best friend for that book, because you got to keep flipping in the back to remember exactly who's who. But what's great about the Silmarillion is you get through kind of the more Bible-like parts. But as the story goes on, there's some just really amazing stories that I think get more personal as the book goes on. And I was in awe. I absolutely adored it.
Yeah. And then, you go back through and you read those stories that you love, those, you I don't know if you read it through all the way, or if you just go to your favorite sections and just reread those, or every so often you go through the beginning. And the older I get, the more that when I'm listening to reading the very beginning of the creation song, and you understand more about the creation song, the more and more you reread the series, because everything in the series is in the song. So
it's funny, and I've told this before, and I feel a bit embarrassed about this, but because I think when I was younger, I needed to kind of assume that everything was I needed to think that everything was sort of more grounded, and I looked at Tolkien as a very poetic writer. So when he talked about he made music, or had the Ainur create music, and that was the creation of Middle Earth, I always thought that he was talking in metaphor. So it wasn't actually music, but he was talking about the actual creating the world, and that was the way in which Tolkien was describing it. Of course, as I came back to it later, I realized no, music is very important to Tolkien, and that's literally the way that the world is created in the book, which I think is incredible.
Yeah,
a very unique idea.
You can tell he was like, he read a lot of like Isaac Newton, and his philosophical works, where he talks about the music of the spheres and the universe is all portrayed and, can be portrayed in music, and how perfect everything is with, what's that sequence of numbers, the Fibonacci sequence of numbers, how it's so perfect, and math and music are intimately entwined with one another. So music kind of makes a lot of sense in a way of how something could just be created out of nothing, because that's what you do with music when you write a score. Because, hey, John, film score guy, your music just, can transport you and create entire worlds in your head. So why not the real world or Tolkien's world? Yes.
And yes, Maura, indeed, we have seen it. And you're asking what the title is. It actually is just Tolkien. And we both loved the movie. It was both on our top 10 lists last year. And which, doesn't that seem like eons ago, Nessie?
It's like 2020 has been like 82 years. It's forever ago, but I remember I caught it on, what's it, Netflix, I think, and I said, "Hey John, hey John, have you watched this Tolkien movie yet?" I'm like, "I'm gonna watch it," and I was like, "Oh, you need to watch this. It's so good." And we started talking about it, and yeah, underrated film, guys. If you get a chance, watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those that came out earlier in the year last year, and it got middling reviews, unfortunately. But I was really impressed, and especially if you're a Tolkien fan, I think you'll really enjoy it.
Yeah, I remember seeing the trailer. I remember seeing the ads for it coming on, on TV or whatnot, on the cable or whatnot. 84 years. Yes, that's how long this last few months has been. And I was thinking that looks like a really good movie, but then I never got a chance to watch it in the theater. Life gets busy. But watching it on Netflix was a joy. And just to see the backstory and see his relationship with his friends and the relationship he had with his wife, you can see, I mean, obviously they were trying to tie it in, and maybe it's true, maybe it's not exactly, it's movie true, how things shake out, but tying it into his sources for where he drew from to write his stories.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me the real valuable thing about the movie is I love that it, that they chose to cover that period of his life and his friendship with his schoolmates, the TCBS as they were called, and
Yeah,
it's nice to see just a film sort of tackle that, just because those friendships were very formative to him, and the fact that I mean, if you watch any biography about Tolkien, you learn that not all of his friends survived the war, and that had, a huge impact on him and his writing. Yeah.
just the one. Yeah, Christopher was Christopher, correct? His friend
Who survived.
that he named his son after.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were friends there. They stayed friends there. For life. But yeah, it was really interesting seeing Tolkien the man, not Tolkien the famous author, because once he became so, huge. This guy forever was like the most well-known author in the world, and he was up there with Dickens and Twain, and he'd entered the lexicon. And it wasn't like people today that they get famous or whatnot. If you're that kind of famous back then, it was a big deal. So that he had the persona. He was, from that point, it was the persona, Tolkien the author. He wasn't just John who writes funny stories and hangs out with his friends. So it was really nice to get to know John Tolkien before, he was just initials.
Yeah, and I won't spoil for the people who haven't seen the movie yet, but it does, at the end of the film, you get a pretty iconic moment from Tolkien's life that I think we've all heard a million times, but it was cool to see that play out on screen. But yeah, so I'm trying to think. So we started talking about the Tolkien, where we were
a love story. I think just a love story between he and his wife.
Yeah.
That was kind of the basis for Beren and Luthien. One of the most iconic love stories that he ever wrote. So I think it's pretty cool. She was always his Luthien. So gets you right in the feels.
Yeah, but Beren and Luthien is my favorite of the Silmarillion stories. I had talked about this on Helen's channel, The Clueless Fangirl. That story is my favorite just because I'm a romantic and I can't help it. So I love that. It's sort of this eternal love story, which then has reverberations, throughout time as we get to Aragorn and Arwen, because that's a mirror for that relationship. And
yeah.
And the fact that, as you were saying before, in the Lord of the Rings, we get Aragorn singing the Lay of Luthien, and and even in the film of Fellowship of the Ring, and when you have that scene of Frodo waking up and saying, "Who is she?" And as Aragorn talked about Luthien, he's talking about Arwen. So it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So yeah. Try to think where we can go from here, because there's any range of, because we've been talking.
It was really cool. He was kind of ahead of his times when he wrote characters like Eowyn and Luthien, because at the time when he was writing, you didn't really have a lot of female heroines that were written. Like the female was like the princess that got saved in the stories, or they were the damsel in distress. And to write Luthien, who she's the hero of the story, where she saves Beren's life. It's kind of really interesting that he was kind of writing characters like that in a time when it really wasn't all that popular, and then to write Eowyn later.
Yeah, part of what I really love about the Beren and Luthien story is that he's not completely passive, but she's the hero.
Yeah, she's the hero.
Yeah. And so that's really cool to see. She's the one who does all the she's the brave one, the one who presses forward, and he's pretty much just lucky to be in her company throughout the story.
He's some guy. He just lost his hand. Lost his head over a girl. Yeah, but and Tolkien really does. He has a very romantic. He can write these grand sweeping epics, but he can really write that poetic, romantic type of story as well. So maybe that's why we love him so much, because when you want a grand adventure, when you want an epic battle, he answers that. And when you want just a sweet love story, he does that. When you want an epic villain who's just the guy you love to hate and you hate to love. He does that. He's like he can just, his writing is so versatile that he's not a one-trick pony for sure. So,
Yeah, I'm trying, because we talked about why we sort of fell in love with Tolkien, but I do wonder what it was that sort of kept me going through The Lord of the Rings and why it was such a compelling story. I think there is something just sort of about this, the kind of story he's telling, the sweeping medieval grand epic adventure, and the fact that so much of the story hinges on these friendships and
yeah,
just the way the characters sort of lean on each other, because whether we've got Frodo and Sam who are trudging through Mordor on their hands and knees, and then you got Merry and Pippin, you have Aragorn,
yeah.
Legolas, and Gimli, who really form that tight
Another.
and it's just wonderful to see. And I've sort of said before, I don't know if I've said it on one of the streams or not, but when I got to the end of the final book, there's just something really heartbreaking and emotional about when Sam returns to his hobbit hole and just says, "Well, I'm back." It's such a sort of personal note to end on such a grand story. It's you feel the weight of everything that character has gone through, his transformations, his the loss of his friend, and all this stuff. And I remember just sort of weeping at that, because
Because who's Sam going to share this with? Who will understand everything that he and his friends went through, because all of his friends are they've gone off. Everybody back in Hobbiton is like, oh yeah, that's nice. Okay, let's it's time for 11sies. It's like, oh, it's that Sam guy. Oh, he's going on and on about his stories. Oh, I'm so tired of that.
Yeah, because he does have Merry and Pippin, but Frodo and him shared a very, yeah. So it's, this will be filled with me saying one of my favorite moments, because I have a lot of them. But one of those moments,
and we're going to hear about all of them.
Yeah, really is in the film version of Return of the King, when after Frodo wakes up in bed and everybody comes in to greet him, and then Sam is just standing by the door, and they just exchange a look with each other, and it's sort of an equal understanding between them that they went through something really horrifying, transformative, and that they're the only ones who are really going to be able to share that going forward. And it's a really emotional moment.
Yeah. I mean, and those are the type of friendships that he had with Tolkien. I mean, with his.
Yes.
Those are the type of friendships that he had. He lost friends. They were very close. They encouraged one another. They lifted one another up, and then one by one, with the World War One, he lost them, and his final friend. Yeah, he was still alive, but they were so phenomenally changed by their experiences that it's one of those things where if you weren't there, you don't know. Either you know or you don't. If I have to explain it, you wouldn't understand. Yeah, very much so, Easy. Very much.
Yeah.
All soldiers who have gone through those type of experiences. You have to explain it, you wouldn't understand anyway.
Okay, so it's we're 1 hour in, so let's go ahead and talk about what's coming up. Unfortunately, I think Steven wants to come back next week, so we're gonna have to indulge it.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Yeah. So next weekend, originally earlier in this year, we didn't think we'd be doing a stream because we were all supposed to be doing something different.
We had other plans.
Yeah, that was Con of Thrones, which was gonna be amazing. And I know I was really looking forward to it because things have changed dramatically for me in the past year. And thanks to Stephen and this wonderful person sitting next to me, I was going to be doing some panels at Con of Thrones, which is like, what? Me? Because like last year, I was still just wandering around, keeping to myself and not interrupting anybody and just being very shy. So the idea that I was actually going to attempt to get up and talk in front of people was terrifying, but really, really exciting. So yeah, big bummer that's not happening because
coronavirus.
Yeah. So the reason I bring this up is because next weekend we are going to do a special Con of Thrones focused episode where we share memories and maybe talk about what we hope for the future, and we may have some special guests. So yeah,
and Stephen will be back.
Yeah, that'll be the downside. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
So
Gotta do the Patreon shout outs. It's the mid-roll. You got the list,
yeah,
John?
I would love nothing more than for like all of you to come visit. I just don't think any of you want to come to Florida right now. But so yeah, that's just gonna be so much fun. So please tune in for that. I'm really looking forward to that because it's gonna be sort of like, it's not gonna be at Con of Thrones, but it's gonna be kind of like a Con of Thrones panel right here on the channel. So
Con-ish. It's gonna be con-ish.
Yeah.
Of course.
So what do you have coming up, Nessie?
Oh, let's see. Well, I'm working. Let's see. I've got a panel that I was supposed to do this weekend for GeekCon that didn't happen. So, Courtney and I, and you're going to hear it here first, because she's in the chat. Monaro Geek TV has graciously accepted the offer to work with the two of us on a panel. We're going to be doing it as a live stream on my channel because, we don't know when GeekCon is going to be back up. But you guys are going to get the preview, the premiere, all the good stuff, because instead of just a 1 hour panel on Belter Society, we are going to be able to do a whole at least 2 hour stream. So you're going to get all the good stuff. And I'm really excited to have Monaro Geek come on my channel. So that's we're going to be doing that. And I've got a live stream also coming up with Alicia, AK47, and we're going to be talking about sphinxes. So we'll be continuing the magical menagerie. So we've got those two coming up. What about you, John? What have you got coming up on your channel?
Okay, so first of all, I want to tell you all that this past Friday night at 8 o'clock, I did a stream with the absolutely amazing Sanrixian about the film Brazil, and a lot of you might not have seen it because it was on Friday night at 8 o'clock. So hop over to my channel, John Webster Film, to take a look at that. It was really stream of consciousness because that is a weird movie, and we did try admirably, I think, to navigate through the plot of the film. We kind of had to jump around because we forgot what order stuff happened in. So, But yeah, please go watch that. It was a great talk. Sandry was fantastic. So please check it out. My next episode will be not this coming Thursday, but the next Thursday at the normal time, 2:00 Eastern. I will be with Aaron M. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite movies, A Knight's Tale.
Mine too.
So tune in for that, because Aaron and I don't agree on much, and two of the things we agree on are Lord of the Rings and A Knight's Tale. So come check that out, because it will be fun. Okay.
I'm really looking forward to that one. Yeah, that's going to be great. All right.
So back to Tolkien. Do you have anything else like about the different books and stuff you want to talk about? Because I'm ready to just sort of gush about the Lord of the Rings films and get into like talking about some of my favorite parts and stuff. What do you want to talk about book related?
Well, I think we've hit most of the highlights on the books. I think what we like the writing, the author. Yeah, I think if you want to just dive into your favorite thing, I think it's time. So,
yeah, Amy, it'll be great, but it's going to be weird if we agree on it. I'm, part of me hopes we find something about our mutual admiration of the movie to disagree. Because that'll make it fun.
I think you'll be able to find something.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yep, and thank you guys for putting the links in there.
Yeah, our mods are great. Thank you, mods.
Okay, so I just want to dive in at the beginning first, because there was some talk on Twitter a couple days ago about favorite movie openings, and I just remember sitting down in the theater in December 2001, not knowing how they were going to start this whole thing, and it just starts in complete black, and you have Cate Blanchett's voiceover starting off with Elvish speaking, and then, and then the music creeps in, that ring theme with the gold lettering and everything. And then we gradually fade up on the rings being forged. And it's I'm in. They nailed it. It's great.
Yeah, I still to this day get chills whenever the ring poem is mentioned or spoken. I don't care who's doing it. I still get chills. I even got chills when we were reading it, John, and I knew what was coming. So yeah, it's really good and a great open. I mean, you're certainly not expecting it, and it's just the blackness, just the blackness. With just the voice coming to you. It's so ethereal and mystical and mood setting. You're like, okay, right from the go, this movie's going to be a little darker because it just starts you in darkness. So yeah, but then you get the light, so it's just sets the tone for the whole series. So.
Yeah, and it really, I think, sets it apart from the book off the bat, because it embodies so much of the history of Tolkien's history and his mythology. But you have the book, which starts off with Bilbo's birthday party, but the film starts with this epic prologue,
and it's just a tiny bit of exposition, but it's so enough. Well done. It's not heavy-handed at all. It gives you just enough to whet your appetite, that there's something going on, but it doesn't just beat you over the head with exposition after exposition. So yeah, I know that Peter Jackson called it sort of not just giving you backstory, but also accomplishing what a James Bond opening does, which is basically to suck you in so that you're already invested in the world and the story, and then it takes its time unfolding, and you find out things in more detail as the story progresses. Good
job,
Yeah. Good job, Kelly.
But only if you typed that out completely from memory.
She may have. I wouldn't be
I know.
surprised. she might have it on as a tattoo. You never know in Elvish. Or the Mordor speech, excuse me.
Yeah, Minar, the Bridget Path of Doom.
That and oh, my heart. I mean, I knew it was coming. I knew. You knew. I knew. We all knew it was coming. But to see it on film was like, ah!
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine like people who didn't know the story going into this, because I was like, that sequence, again, this is something I've said before, but when you go out of the when they come out of the caves on the other side of Moria, and things are in slow motion, you got the music, that's when I remember releasing my breath, not even realizing that I've just been holding it in for that
breath
sequence.
Yeah, I mean, just to me, just running across that narrow ass bridge, that scene, there's nothing forever on both sides, one slip, you're just, they're just hauling butt trying to get across there. And I'm like, I'm literally holding my breath just like you were, John, just holding it like if I could hold my breath, it would make them a little lighter and run faster. And then just like start chucking them over. Oh, I mean, it was some seat of your pants, chase scene right there, and then the Balrog. Oh.
Yeah. I just see what was great about all the sequences in these films, but especially this one, is that they had a way of imagining these scenes so they were simultaneously like everything you would hope for, with an adaptation and seeing these moments come to life, but somehow they were still unexpected. And the fact that when Gandalf falls, there's any number of ways you could do that line, but the fact that he just softly says, "Fly, you fools," and then drops, it just took my breath away. And yeah.
And then the opening scene of the next movie with it's Gandalf falling. You see Gandalf just falling forever and ever, fighting and falling and fighting. Oh man, it's just like boom, right off. It just grabs you by the throat and will not let go. It's just two amazing scenes. I mean, and it's like now when I read those scenes, that's what I see in my head. That's what I see. I hear, Gandalf's voice in my head. I hear Merry and Pippin's voice in my head. I hear Aragorn's voice in my head. Whenever, that's just it. That's in there now. That's my head voice canon. Forever. Is it that way for you too, John? Do you hear everything being read in those voices, or?
No, actually, it's funny because it's kind of a mixture. There's some parts where I do hear the actors. There's some parts where I still hear sort of the natural, voices that I imagined when I first read the books. But a lot of it, I'll be honest, is that BBC radio play, because so many of the lines are pulled directly from the book, so it's very easy to fall back on those voices. So it's like a mixture, and sometimes I have to admit, sometimes I miss not just having sort of my original imaginings of the characters, but that's sort of what happens when there's some great adaptations. You just can't help it.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah,
with A Song of Ice and Fire, I can't not hear Liam Cunningham as Davos. I just can't. It's
yeah.
it's never going back. But yeah, there's Kelly mentioned the music, and obviously you guys know I'm like
All right, here we go.
movie buff. So here's the first movies, the complete recordings, and I actually had it signed by Howard Shore. So you can actually get these digitally on iTunes for all three films. So if you like the music at all and you don't have the complete recordings, fix that because they're fantastic. And they're my favorite soundtracks of all time. Before those movies came out, it was Star Wars, obviously, and Star Wars is still up there. But what Howard Shore does is basically, he's crafting a gigantic. It's like an opera, basically. Just on that kind of grand scale.
It really is. I mean, you can listen to the score and you can see the movie play out in your head just by the score, like, oh yeah, or the battle, or it's just so sweeping. Hi, Sandry, good to see you again.
Well, you can get up to my level. Just ask me for some recommendations. I will give you a list of stuff. I will.
Yeah. I mean, I've had Hamilton playing in my head like for the last week. So, yeah.
Yeah, because it's funny because we can digress a little bit right here. But I had considered just doing a stream on Hamilton, but I wasn't sure how in keeping that was with the Here Be Dragons brand. Because I saw it for the first time last week as well, and I was just blown away. It's the first time I heard any of the music, saw anything, and I was like, oh, so this isn't all just hype. It's really that good.
Yeah.
And I had the songs playing over and over in my head.
Oh yeah, the songs are great. The songs are phenomenal. They're earworms.
Yes, thank you, Kelly. That's what I'm saying. You guys need to, any film score fans owe it to themselves to check out La La Land Records, because and there's a couple other companies, like Entrada Records is another one that basically just do expanded score releases for films and television shows. So just, you owe it to yourselves if you love film music. And actually, they're currently out of print, but they're going to be releasing more in a couple months. La La Land Records has a massive box set of the first 3 Harry Potter film scores by John Williams. If you're a Harry Potter fan, you need those CDs. I don't care if you moved on to digital music, get these at least, because they're fantastic. Okay, so there's my there's my nerding out of film music.
One day, John is going to do a stream just on film scores. Only film scores.
Yeah, Leaf, I'm just trying to help the people out, because I think if they know that certain scores are on iTunes, they'll be more likely to check them out.
Like, oh yeah, iTunes, I can get that. Unless you've got an Android.
I
don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to be pragmatic. So for the ones
occasionally it happens. Okay,
yeah, it's rare, but occasionally. I would prefer you guys get the CDs for all this music, but
Yes. Yeah.
But I'm willing. Like, if it gets you guys to listen to the full Lord of the Rings scores, I'm willing to sacrifice.
Yes, Amy, I misspoke. It would be a multi-part series on film scores.
Yeah, the only problem with that is that with copyright issues and stuff, I couldn't just play the music, which is what I would love to do. But
that's John's ideal day. playing film scores for you guys and me, and just stopping and expounding on how great they are. That's it right there.
Padar, you have to get me wound up, don't you?
It's Padar, man. What do you expect? You know, if he wasn't this way, I would wonder if he was sick. So glad you're doing well, Padar.
Well, she is. No. Oh, by the way, I did want to mention this. Somebody up above asked if I hate Stephen. I can see it. If there's a new, maybe someone who's new might actually ask that. We are just trolling him because he's.
We are seriously just trolling Stephen today, because we love him. If you don't love someone, you can't properly troll them. So, yeah.
Stephen goes beyond being my friend. He's my brother, so I love him. You know, and so anything I say, it's just in good fun.
Absolutely. Okay. And of course he'd want us to troll him. He'd think we didn't care.
Exactly. So Two Towers, Battle of Helm's Deep. The best battle scene in any film ever?
100%. Best. God. I mean, how could you even ask? That was so freaking good. You could just watch that sequence.
And it's not, and it's not just the battle, though. It's also the build up to the battle. They just ratchet up the tension.
Yeah, it's like, are they going to make it? Are they going to make it? Oh, there's more. You know, oh, they're bringing in the battering ram. Oh no, are they going to make it through this long night? I see you. No, that wasn't borrowed for anything recently. No.
Hadar, do not tease me like that. I see something like that and then I get my hopes up. All right, just don't. Okay, that's not fair.
I mean, if you can make that happen, though, there are people that would be eternally grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of those people, besides me, is in the chat today. So you're being cruel to multiple people.
Playing with fire. But Helm's Deep, some of the best dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I mean, I do love that. I don't know whether it's considered politically correct nowadays, but just the whole exchange between Aragorn and Gimli, and Gimli's like, toss me. I cannot jump the distance. You have to toss me. Yeah.
And it was obviously
the funny part of that, though, is the fact that he says, "Don't tell the elf." Then Aragorn's like, "Not a word."
And the exchanges between Gimli and Legolas during this, even in the midst of this horror, this huge battle, there's all this drama, there's all this tension, and these little comedic bits just to like briefly just break the tension just enough so that you can like survive, like you're not completely holding your breath for an hour while all this is going on, is super. Like I said, the exchange between Legolas and Gimli, when they're like 4, 5, 6, and he's like, yeah, that was really, really awesome.
Yeah, the entire final bit when Aragorn and Theoden are speaking to each other. Now, there's some reversals of lines in the film from the book, because Theoden's arc is different in the book. He's filled with a lot of self-doubt, but eventually, I mean, what I like about it is that they chose to use the Two Towers to really build up these character arcs, so that by the end of the film, the characters are as they are in the book, but they have to get there. And obviously there was a lot of controversy with that at the time, but I think from a cinematic perspective, it actually really works quite well. And so I love that, the Aragorn is one who's saying, let us ride out together. And it's, sort of bringing Theoden out of himself. And then he starts saying, the lines, when they're on horseback, and he's talking about, as
yes,
says, now for wrath, now for ruin, and a red dawn.
Oh.
And then you have Gimli blowing the horn, and
I mean, do you get chills when you hear it?
Yeah.
You get chills, still, even
especially going back to the music that's used in the scene, which I get to nerd out a little more. It was not the music originally for the scene where
sorry.
When Aragorn is sort of hyping Theoden up and and putting his hand on his shoulder and saying, let's go out. The music they use in the film is actually the same music that's in the scene where the Ents begin to march on Isengard. And they had a different music originally for that piece in the film, but it's a way of sort of bringing these storylines together. Yeah.
It ties it together so well.
And it's beautiful. And actually, the fact that they did that influenced the score in the third film, because then Howard Shore said, okay, that was actually a really good idea. Let me incorporate that theme into the Rohirrim. And then you get that with the the ride of the Rohirrim in the third film, when Theoden is, going by and, hitting all the, the spears and stuff with his sword, and you get that end theme, but with all the orchestral muscle behind it. And it's one of the most spine-tingling moments in all three films. And so it's funny how sometimes something that's not originally intended, but they make those decisions in post-production, can really influence things in a wonderful way.
Right. It just ties it so well. Just stitches it seamlessly together. Yeah. Just those scores throughout the films. That ties all the themes, together beautifully. And when you see the scene with Aragorn and Theoden, and he's trying to lift him up. He's trying, he's encouraging him. The man is, he's lost his honor. He had lost his throne. He was prior, he had been just a shell of a man. And when you see him coming back into, like, regaining not just his sense of self, but like his kingship, when he's really just coming back into that leadership, that kingship, and it's Aragorn that's doing that. That's like one king to another, just really speaking to the heart of what a king is and what he has to do for his people. That is really powerful, because Aragorn, by, in the further along in the films they go, he's really starting to come into his own kingship. He's like accepted it. This is what must be. I am the heir of Isildur. I am going to claim my kingship. I am. So by him building up Theoden, he's also kind of speaking to himself in a way.
Yeah.
He's building himself up for his, the next step. He's leveling up, in gamer terms. So it's just that exchange is so key to both of their arcs, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it is really, I love Aragorn's arc throughout the films, because he seems to, as you put it, level up with each film. It's a very sort of personal acknowledgement to Boromir at the end of Fellowship, when he says,
yes,
I will go in this direction, and you have earned my respect, and and so it's on that very personal level. And then Two Towers is he's starting to accept that mantle as a leader among men, and the race of men, and then Return of the King, where he's acknowledging that he does need to take his rightful place as king and truly put aside personal concerns and lead them forward. It's beautiful to see that progression through each of the films.
Yeah, and in the Return of the King, he by the time he has accepted that mantle, and the Battle of Don, he's going to Gondwan and has to go through Dun Harrow. Had he not accepted that mantle, had he not owned his kingship, there's no way that he could have made the bargain with the spirits of Dun Harrow. And that's spooky kind of magical moment for him. Yes, I can do this because I am the heir. I am the person that can free you. That's really just owning that whole magical aspect, as well as the physical claiming of the kingship, but also the mantle and the aura of kingship that comes along with it. That he is able to make these bargains with the spirit world, so to speak, to fulfill the oaths and to free them. So, yeah.
Bye, Monaro. Thanks for coming by.
Bye, Monaro. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, and I really do love the way that Vito plays Aragorn throughout the films, and even you mentioned the scene where he's getting the allegiance of the army of the dead. I like that Vito's performance always has he doesn't just go straight to playing the very kingly Aragorn. He's always got his foot back in, this is a ranger of the wild who's been off on his own for a while. It's really not until that final speech in front of the Black Gate when he truly ascends to having that sort of level of authority and
right. He's coming to Mordor to bang on the door,
Yeah. And I love that speech.
To him, yes.
I mean, obviously, Theoden gets most of the props for speeches in Return of the King, because that is one heck of a battle cry that he gives. But I like Aragorn's because it's different. It's a bit more fitting with him, because he's not everything he says is him screaming at the top of his lungs. It's making an impassioned, not plea, but
he's calling him out.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some great speeches in that movie. It's fantastic. I mean, that whole movie can really be summed up just by saying the hair is standing up on the back of my neck.
On the back of your hair on your arms standing up three.
I remember I said at the time that the whole Battle of Pelennor Fields gave me the feeling that when Helm's Deep happened and the Rohirrim come over the hill and they go down, I said that how that scene made me feel was like how the entirety of Pelennor Fields made me feel, because just all the shots with the Oliphants coming in.
Oh my God, the Oliphants were tremendously. They were so good.
When the Rohirrim charge in and charge over the orcs, and you've got that sweeping shot that kind of spins around, and it's like, oh my God. Because at the time, that was new territory for CGI and armies and stuff. And I get on the case of a lot of CGI in movies, but honestly, I've always been in love with the quality of the effects in Lord of the Rings, because they somehow made it believable, but also all the computer effects look almost artistic, like it's a painting, as opposed to necessarily looking true to life. And I think that's why they still hold up, because you watch those scenes and it's almost like you're seeing a piece of art come to life.
Yeah, the people that were behind that really, really knew what they were doing. They were artists on like level 10, of they. It was just enough. They give you just enough to make it, to keep it believable, to make it believable. What they're drawing, to make it believable. It didn't look clunky. How it didn't look overdone, like some people complain about other movies that I shall not name, about it having like way too much relying on CGI. I won't say the name. They're wrong. But yeah, and I've seen bad CGI. Um, this was like an artist. You could just see it almost like an artist's brushstrokes painted into this phenomenal scene.
Yeah, speaking of great CGI, we haven't really mentioned Gollum. I mean, I still remember when I saw the Two Towers for the first time, and when he showed up on screen, especially like after the first attack, like it's the moment when Sam is dragging him along the rope, and I was looking at this little guy and I'm like, how is that not a real person? Because it doesn't look like it's in the computer. And I just it was really a big step forward in computer animation, and it's great when you see something that is that much of like a forward progression in the technology, because you're just blown away by it.
Yeah, Sontavia, that was just, yeah, it makes me cry. But it was such a advancement in the art. It set the bar, for things that were to come behind it. And Gollum, he wasn't the way that I pictured him when I was imagining what Gollum. I was like, how are they going to do Gollum? Are they going to make it look like the frog thing from the animation? How is that going to work? Or was it going to be like this twisted, twisted hobbit? So, but he was so creepy, and he lived for, God, how old was he? He was hundreds of years old. It's like if a hobbit had lived to be 400 years old, this is what it would look like. But yeah, Gollum was just, and he did such great work. I mean, it was just him and the green screen, for most of those shots with to get the movement and everything in. Yeah, great job.
Yeah, it's funny. Their original conception for the character was probably not completely in line with the what was in the animated version, but something more similar with just focusing on the big eyes. And you can actually see the early version of Gollum in Fellowship when they show him both in the prologue and when he's kind of spying on Gandalf and Frodo in the mines of Moria. Versus what was in the Two Towers in Return of the King, because they realized that they could do the motion capture, but also model Gollum off of Andy Serkis, which was just a brilliant idea because it just added so much humanity to him.
Yeah. I mean, and he didn't start out as a monster. He started out as just an unassuming little hobbit going on a fishing trip, just like Bilbo, just like Frodo, just like the other guys that we fell in love with, but for this thing that was never meant for hobbits to have, So, yeah.
Yeah, and just what was mentioned before about in Return of the King, for Frodo moment. it's like just tears washing down my face, and it follows, and that follows after the Sam and Frodo moment on the slopes of Mount Doom. I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you.
And like, oh, my
And
heart.
the music, Howard Shore's music, sweeping with the Into the West theme. That's the first time you ever hear that piece of music, and it's predominant through the rest of the film, which I always thought was a great choice. And then the For Frodo moment, and you get that magnificent choral version of the Fellowship theme. And Merry and Pippin are the first ones to run after Aragorn as he charges, and then they're overtaken once everybody else starts to run. And it's just, see, this just gets me thinking about how much joy I had seeing these movies in theaters and how much I miss that. You know, it was a really special time in my life, and I really wish sometimes I could just, you know, take a time machine and revisit that time. Which is hilarious because, like, those, not Return of the King, but the other two films were during my high school days, and I've got no desire to go back there. But you just remember the good times.
Selective editing is what I like to call those time periods in my life. I'm like, okay, that's a good one. Let's hold on to this one and just edit out all the ugly stuff that's around it. Hi, Anna.
Hi, Anna. Yeah.
High school, most people didn't really, Well, I know I didn't enjoy it that much. Could have been worse, I guess.
But I will say that I have to go here just because I'm such a movie buff. I'll talk about the experience of the Academy Awards. And it won't surprise many people to learn that I was quite livid when Fellowship lost Best Picture to A Beautiful Mind, especially when Moulin Rouge was also up for Best Picture.
I wouldn't have wanted to have to make that choice either, but I mean, that's three great films. It's like, it was a feast. It was a feast.
I'm a little less enamored with The Beautiful Mind than maybe you are, Nessie. I would have
I really, really enjoyed it.
I would have preferred Moulin Rouge or Fellowship.
I like Moulin Rouge too.
And then Two Towers lost to Chicago, which no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that was a stinker, I think. Yeah. It wasn't my cup of tea. We'll just put it that way.
Oh no, we found some division.
Of course, Amy agrees with me. Amy agrees with me about almost everything.
I will say I love Russell Crowe in the film. I think it's one of his finest performances. And he didn't even win Best Actor for it, which
I know, right? It's just maybe we'll do that on another John Webster film stream. Yeah. I'll hand you a pen. Here's a pen.
It's funny, like I got people coming back at me with A Beautiful Mind is so good though. It's like you all wanted me to not like a movie. So this is what you got.
You don't like Chicago, right? You cannot like Chicago.
Okay.
It'll be fine. Yeah, okay. Yep, Amy agrees. We're all good.
Yes, this is all I want to have up on the screen.
Yeah, we'll just leave that up there for a while. Yes.
Of course, the irony being that when Return of the King won, which obviously I agree with entirely, but Master and Commander was also up that year, which is another favorite of mine. So, I'm not saying I would have been satisfied with it winning because I would have been pissed off still that Lord of the Rings lost again. But Master and Commander would have deserved it. It was fantastic. But that said, Osternight in what was it, like February 2004 was like
Oh
one
my
of my
God.
favorite memories of all time, because Return of the King just kept winning award after award after award, and it won all 11 categories it was up for. So the whole night was basically me just, you know, just sitting up on the couch going, yes.
It's like vindication at last. Yes.
Which, by the
Yeah.
way, I will be doing a stream on Master and Commander at some point in the near future, and I've invited Kelly on to talk about, and hopefully we'll also get Shakes of Thrones on to talk about as well, because she loves the movie. So
And there's a cello.
it's going to be great. So, but yeah, the Oscars was just a dream for me that night, and I got really emotional because of all the behind the scenes documentaries that were on the DVD sets. So it was very easy to feel like, as a Lord of the Rings fan, that you had come to know all the people who worked behind the scenes, and so getting to see them all go up on stage was just so amazing, and I couldn't help getting emotional at that.
Very well deserved.
Yeah, I'm like super psyched for that stream. It's going to be great.
No, Padar. They're not both. They're ships. Get it right. Ships in that film. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, and the Oscars really is a good closing place for me. We kind of sporadically, but there's so much with Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings. I do want to go ahead and maybe start our final section of the stream. But is there anything else about Tolkien that you want to say, Nessie?
I think just he was just so influential. Probably because I came to him so young that he just left such a heavy mark on my choice. I guess maybe if I hadn't read Tolkien when I was so young, would I be would it have influenced my reading choices going forward as much as it did? Probably not, but yeah, he probably would have. Obviously he did. But yeah, it seems like maybe going forward from that point, it's always just searching for that next. Okay, this was so good. Where's the next one? What's, trying to find something that's going to equal it, match it in scope and breadth.
Would you say that's what led you to Song of Ice and Fire then?
I would say it definitely had its a point to it. Of course, George is a completely different writer. His style is different. But in scope and breadth and depth and backstory and characters, you can really see how he was influenced as well in the writings of Tolkien. So yeah. Without Tolkien, we probably wouldn't have had a lot of the things that we know and love and appreciate today. No, like you say, no Star Wars, no Dune, no Song of Ice and Fire, no Wheel of Time, all of these things, no Star Trek. It just the scope and the breadth, it just opened up the possibility that such a thing could be. He wrote a Bible without it feeling like you're reading the Bible. So yeah,
and that's the thing. He was writing a mythology for England, basically, and the whole thing was just because he felt like his country lacked a mythology that was their own, because everything else felt derived. It was derived from other cultures.
Well, Tolkien did derive a little bit from other cultures as well. Hint, wink, wink. But yes, just as far as mythology, something particularly English.
Yes.
The Shire is particularly the English countryside. It's that bucolic feeling of hay fields and gardens and a laid back, let's have some tea lifestyle, just laid back in the backwoods, the Cotswolds or the lake country or wherever they're, you know, the countryside, Somerset. It's just, that beautiful section,
Yeah, that's why I feel. And Kelly, I always imagined that, when I heard talk about he wanted to build up a mythology for, for England, I always thought, if the world entered some kind of dark age and I could pick like one, subset of mythology to sort of, carry on so the world built its history back off it, I wouldn't even pick, a real like established one. I'd just say, let's just pluck Lord of the Rings off the shelf and have the world build itself back up off of this.
Yeah. This is the mythology we're going with. This is
Yeah.
The long lost golden age. Yeah, and I mean he obviously he did borrow some things from Arthurian legend, which is deeply British. It's iconically British as well. So it's like taking those stories and just turning them up to 11, expanding them into this wonderful green golden world that was his playground.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so on that note, we did promise you that we would do a Q&A portion of this, and we'll. I don't feel any need to wrap up, soon, so we'll stick around for a little while. So, what do you guys want to know? It can be about anything related to it doesn't have to be about Tolkien. Ask us about stuff we've covered before on Here Be Dragons, on one of our personal streams, or if there's just something you'd like to know about one of us, ask away. Yeah,
ask away. Ask us anything. I have, John's drinking water. I've had some of our this is the peach that Left Dad just bottled up yesterday. It is so good, guys. This was so worth the wait.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of letting people down by not drinking orange juice.
Yeah, John, what's up with that?
I don't know. Okay, can I talk shit about a movie for a few seconds? And let me think up a movie, and while you answer her question of
I get the question. Who would I marry in Aswaf? Okay. Well, first off, I mean, a lot of people in Aswaf suck and would be horrible partners. But yeah, if I'm gonna pick anybody in all of Aswaf, it would probably be Oberyn Martell. Yeah. Best of both worlds. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so
Mary. Well, let's pick Mary.
Here we go. I'm trying to pick out one that I haven't spoken of before, but that's been in our private chats, not on here. So, like, one of my favorite franchises from when I was a kid was Highlander, but Highlander 2 is like one of the worst movies ever made. I hate it. It's just absolutely awful because it makes, it turns the main characters into aliens, which they're not in the original movie. It's like, what the hell? And then they tried to do some kind of director's cut about it that made like these immortal characters actually time travelers, which they weren't. It's what, Nessie? What?
It was a dog of a movie, John. Yeah. It was a dog of a movie.
It's awesome.
I loved Highlander as well. I mean, yeah.
And look, I don't even know what the heck Michael Ironside thinks he's doing in that film. It's like, I like Michael Ironside, but he's dreadful in that. Like,
oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. Maybe it's astronauts, maybe it's aliens. Who knows what the answer is? No. The show, the TV show, the series was actually pretty good. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I love the series, but this isn't me talking positively about something. This is me crapping on something. And Highlander 2 is terrible. It's like, and it's the fact that what really kills me is they thought what I just said. They thought they were making it better with the director's cut by dubbing over some lines, but it's like it makes even less sense. Like you could accept that they decided, okay, in this one they're aliens. We're throwing out everything we decided on doing in the first film. Now they're aliens, but in the director's cut, they try and sort of halfway it back to the original mythology, but it makes no sense. Like within the context of the film itself, it doesn't make any sense. It's just the worst. And yeah, it's like the only thing like I could manage to say good about it is that Sean Connery seems to be having the time of his life, and that's it. But
Well,
I think he's the only one who realized, okay, this is a crap movie, so I'm just going to do my own thing off in the corner.
Yeah. Just let the man swashbuckle. He's happy.
This is a real movie, Padar. I know you prefer to not acknowledge that it ever happened, but it did happen, okay, and it was horrifying. Okay, let me go back to see if there were other questions while I got hung up on. I don't know the answer to this. Do you, Nessie? Do fish know when it's raining?
Yes. Oh, did you want me to explain it? Or did you just want an answer? I think, yes, fish know when it's raining. It may not know that rain is water falling from the sky, but it knows that something is happening because it will sense the vibrations of the raindrops hitting the surface of the water, and the vibrations would travel through the water because water conducts sound and vibrations very well. So, yes, I think fish are aware that it's raining. I don't think that they know that it's actually water falling from the sky.
Okay, so what part of
She was not serious. She was trolling me. Kelly.
what
Good
part
one.
of the Lord of the Rings books that was left out of the movie would you have loved to see in the movies?
Tom Bombadil.
See, and I feel like that would have been a digression. I wouldn't mind seeing the Bombadil stuff as like deleted scenes. I don't know if I would have wanted to see it in there. I actually I'm gonna go ahead and say give me the Scouring of the Shire. I know that people thought that the movie was long enough at the end and that there were already, as they put it, too many endings. But God damn it.
I've been found out.
We almost made it. You couldn't just let us have this one. Get back in here, asshole.
Oh my goodness. Hi, Steven.
I just really wanted to pop in and troll you guys for a second. You've been trolling me for the last 2 hours.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That was perfect, dude. That was so perfect.
Yeah, I
have
no idea who it is.
Hi, everybody. I love you guys. Go back to what you were doing. I just wanted to pop in and mess with you. And real talk, I've been listening to you guys for the whole time.
Cool. So how you been?
The kids never even showed up this weekend, so because COVID. So I didn't even need the weekend off, but it was fun to just sit and listen and pretend to be somebody else for a little while. I was actually wondering how you guys were going to make a 2-hour conversation out of I love Tolkien, but hey, you pulled it off.
Yeah, I can always just go through all the stuff I love about the Lord of the Rings.
Amy, we need to have a conversation.
This is just one of those things, Stephen. You just wind John up like this and just let him go.
Okay, John, go. Enjoy.
And-
Guys, I love you. You've done fantastic.
Stephen, quickly, before you go. Hi.
I don't know if
I haven't.
nobody's told you yet.
Mm-mm.
In honor of your Here Be Dragons, I am making a beverage that is called Here Be Dragons Blood.
Nice. Oh, man. Okay, so you have to send some of that with Nessie to Ice and Fire Con. I don't drink, but I'm going to taste it.
It may get sent before that.
But it's definitely coming to Ice and Fire
man.
Con.
That I just got chills, y'all. I love you guys. I'm gonna let you get back to it. I really didn't. I just wanted to show up to play for a moment and to tell you, yes, I've been listening the whole time. I love this community. I love all y'all in the chat. I will say, thanks to our patrons, by the way, John Bronsteen, Sixto Sounds, and Ridiculous Ed Tollett. We love you guys. Y'all missed the Patreon shout out in the middle.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, obviously. I'm sorry, guys. It's totally my fault. But I'm glad Stephen popped in to do that.
All right.
Later,
y'all. Hey, y'all be excellent to each other.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. I did, because I'm used to just doing my mid-roll where I don't have a Patreon. So I don't have to worry about this. So my apologies. I'll probably never get to do this again. But if I do, I'll remember.
Yeah, we forgot to fill the car up with gas.
Yeah.
We brought it home on empty.
Okay, so going back up to this question, who would you side with, the blacks or the greens?
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, first off, being, a Stark loyalist from the north, I would have to go with my liege lord Cregan, and we would be supporting the blacks, but unironically, we would come very late to the party. We would come in to, as I like to say, kick ass and take names. So, what about you, John?
I'm kind of conflicted between just going with the Starks because, Stark loyalist, or actually shit.
You're going to agree with me.
I know. But see, isn't that a reason to not? Sorry. I don't know. I'm gonna go with the blacks.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
Yeah.
Looky. I wonder who. All right. Did you see any other questions in the chat?
Well, we did get kind of derailed with the interruption. You keep bringing, guys. We'll stay as long as you guys have.
Yeah, we were starting. So, anything, everything within reason. Oh yeah, let's just go back. I don't know. John, you got any questions for me? I'll answer one question for you. But you have to answer one for me.
I don't know if that's a price I want to pay.
I mean, true friends don't have secrets, between them.
Yeah, I know. I'm feeling kind of, betrayed because I didn't. I should have known that was Steven, but
well, yeah. I was thinking, oh, we got a new person in the chat.
Yeah,
Favorite
dragon ever. I'm gonna go with Draco from Dragonheart because I do love
Good
me
choice.
some Sean Connery. Yeah. What about you?
That was a really, really good choice. Okay. It's a hard one. I'd done like 3 streams on them, I think, or maybe is it 4? I don't know how many there are now. 2, actually. I would love to see Balerion on screen, Balerion and Vagar on screen. I would love to see the 3 dragons from Aegon the Conqueror. Pending that, because I haven't seen them, I would probably go with Smaug. Smaug was really well done, I think. One, because, as we discussed, he had conversation. Just having having that interaction like that was really cool. I do like that. I mean, Dragonheart obviously got great lines. He had like a whole movie, but but yes, when you actually get the dragons that are having conversation, they're intelligent, they have conversation. That's very, very cool. Be cool. And let's see. Yeah, I'll go with that. And Puff. Yeah.
So, which Tolkien creature would you like to be?
I think John and I probably agree on this. Let's see. Which one would I like to be, or which one am I closest to at heart? I'm probably closest at heart to hobbits. But what would I like to be? I would probably like to be. Maiar would be kind of cool. You don't have all the responsibility of the Valar, but you got a lot of cool power and you can do shit. You got a lot more freedom and latitude in what you do. Like, God, yeah.
So, I mean,
that would.
well, I'd like to ask Amy to specify, because when she said creature, I assumed, we were talking about like, dragons, wards, eagles, that type of thing, as opposed to races. Like,
Go ahead. What would you be if you could play anything, be anything?
Well, if we're opening wide up, I'd think. I mean, again, it's like I'm obviously closest to a hobbit, but as far as what I'd like to be, I think it'd be pretty cool to be an elf. But if it's creatures, I don't want to be an evil one, but being a dragon would be pretty cool.
Yeah. But all Tolkien's dragons are not cool. John, the unevil dragon.
Yeah.
Just kind of keep yourself.
Yeah, I don't know if I would be planning on doing a stream about it in the near future, but I actually love How to Train Your Dragon, and I think it's a really good movie. And of course, I'm gonna chime in on this. I think the music is absolutely fantastic. I would have actually picked it to win Best Original Score of the year it came out, but I am not the Academy. So, what about you, Nessie? Have you seen it?
I have not. No, I have not. It would be a great movie to have on a movie night. Maybe we'll do that in the future, and who knows? Maybe we'll do something streamwise about it afterwards.
Don't overthink it. Yeah. By the way, I should mention that I'm not going to be putting up questions that are not asked in good faith. You know who you are.
Oh,
Um,
I missed it.
Anything else, guys? Yeah, that's true.
It is. It's the right answer. I mean, you can be a good Maiar, you can be a neutral Maiar, you can be an evil Maiar, and they've all got great parts in the story. So, I mean, from Melia to Sauron, they're the best.
Who's your favorite elf?
Favorite elf. I'd have to probably say Elrond, because through him, he's witness to most of the story. I mean, all of of course, the Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, but even most of the, he was born when Second Age, I think.
I think so.
He was born Second Age. Second Age. I'd say Elrond. He was a mover and a shaker.
Yeah, Luthien for me, because she's so damn awesome. She is the hero of of the story, and
Thanks, Grandma.
and the fact that the thing she does has reverberations through multiple generations. So yeah, I did talk about that on Helen's stream. How she's probably in the larger legendarium. She's probably my favorite character if we're not just talking specifically about Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit.
Yeah, and Melia and Thingol's story really don't get a lot of play as well, but they are kind of like an archetype for that, because Melia is a Maiar. She's in a way of hierarchy, kind of like above or whatever, like the elf. She will always be where the elves will pass and go, to the Hall of Mandos. So she's even, it's kind of like a tradition. Like they broke the mold first. Her parents broke the mold first. So then you have their daughter breaking the mold again. So I think it's kind of cool. Yeah. Her mom was a rebel.
Okay, let me pull this one up. Favorite vampire film?
Favorite vampire film? It'd have to be Bram Stoker, Dracula.
Yeah, what if we widen it out to include television shows? What would you say?
Okay. Now, I do enjoy the comedic gem that is What We Do in the Shadows. That show is phenomenal. If you get a chance to watch it, don't let the grass grow under your feet, but don't take it in the least little bit seriously. It's absolutely fantastic comedically. Yeah. What about you, John? Favorite vampire film?
There aren't that many that I really enjoy.
And Blade was really good. The original Blade, I liked.
Yeah, this is favorite, not best, so I'm just going to pick a total guilty pleasure and go with Underworld.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, also good.
Yeah, I wouldn't, call it like, top quality filmmaking, but it's really fun. And yeah, Kate Beckinsale, just gonna say it. As for TV shows, it's undeniably Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I mean, it's just no getting around that. I have people trying to get me to watch True Blood. I have no interest.
Don't watch it, John. Don't do it. The first couple of seasons were good, but man, oh no. Let's just say that no, I won't. I won't dignify that. Yeah. Oh, Anna, you watch it? Nandor? Yeah, Nandor is awesome. He's so freaking funny. It really is hard to pick a favorite. But yeah, Nandor's great. All right. And this person called Santa Best had a question.
Yeah, who's that again?
I don't new to the stream, new to our streams. We welcome them at the beginning. So, yeah. What do you think? Fifth Element.
Shamefully, I have never seen it. Yeah.
There's a film that I have seen multiple times that you haven't. What?
I feel like I'm always shocking people when I say that I haven't seen a movie. They're like, that doesn't sound right.
Let me clean my ears out. Are you sure? Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're being disingenuous there, Amy. I really do. But what do you think of the Fifth Element?
I don't know about whether it was visionary. I mean, you've got to set a pretty high bar for visionary, but I did enjoy it. It was different. I like the opening, the alien, how that with the temple. Just spoiler, John. Spoiler. Shut your ears. I know you're a spoiler baby. Yeah, I really, really liked that. And oh gosh, what was the character's name? I would say it was one of Bruce Willis's best films, personally. Dallas Corbin Dallas. Yeah, Corbin Dallas. You got Chris Rock. Yeah, I'd say it's a great popcorn film for sure. Maybe John, maybe we should watch The Fifth Element with you, since you haven't seen it. It's on brand.
I will say, I think my favorite Bruce Willis film is probably 12 Monkeys, which is irrelevant because Sandry and I were just talking about Brazil, which is also directed by Terry Gilliam and has some visual similarities. But I know that was one of those movies that I saw when I was younger, and I was like, I don't even know what that movie meant, but it was cool.
Yes, that is the creepiest. I mean, and that's saying something, Kelly, because Gary Oldman, let's say, I mean, he did do Dracula, Count Dracula. He did, oh gosh, what was that film with the guy in the Professional? I can't remember the police officer's name, but yeah, he was in The Professional. But the Zorg, I think was his character's name. Yeah, that was a little beyond creepy. You're like, he is like a Euron prototype. Just let the world burn down and I will be joyful in the ashes.
I'm going to give Padar 1. So his Die Hard Christmas film.
Well, it came out at Christmas. There's a Christmas tree in it. There's a Christmas party. Kinda, I guess. Maybe. A lot of people consider it, a holiday movie, but
No. Moving on.
Moving on. Okay.
Yeah, you guys got anything else for us? I have to admit, I'm quite happy these are a lot less personal than I was expecting.
Like, hey, John, what kind of soap do you use? Oh, yeah. I think Ridiculous Ed agrees with you about 12 Monkeys. Let's see. Okay, it looks like the consensus of the chat is it is a holiday movie. So we'll let it.
Surprise.
I mean, it's not on my. I have to watch it every holiday list, but yeah, it can be on somebody's. I'm sure it's on a lot of people's. Oh, top 5 shows. That's a big one. Okay. I like. Okay. I loved X-Files, Fringe, all TNG. I just started a rewatch recently. Let's see. That's 3, 4, 5. Go ahead, John. You go ahead and get a couple, and I'll be thinking about my last 2.
Okay, let me see if I can think of the 5. These aren't going to be in any order.
No.
Yeah, obviously Game of Thrones, Lost, Battlestar Galactica, Angel, and I guess probably Buffy. I know there's others, and I'd probably throw those in to
Bones. Yeah, Bones is another one for me. I really like that. And The Expanse. How could I have forgotten The Expanse? Oh my God. It's like I almost don't even consider that like a TV show. That's like on a whole nother level of entertainment. But yeah, it should have been my number 1. But yeah, and yours is
while it doesn't, I already listed 5, but what the heck? Even though it doesn't hold up as well as newer shows, and it had a lot of not so great stuff, but I still love Highlander, the series. And so I'd throw that up there too, because I do love the characters and the mythology. And yeah, Firefly is always there. That's why if I could just really group Joss Whedon shows together,
group it together.
Yeah,
all Joss Whedon, Joss Whedon shows. I had another one. Oh yeah, I like. This is weird, but I like CSI, the one in it was set in Las Vegas. I like that one. I kind of like, I like forensics. So yeah. Firefly might be.
Yes, Pater is actually right about this. So that's
yes, Pater gets it right every once in a while. Yeah,
it's a rarity, but it does happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're gonna have to put the avatars up there as well. Yeah, that was really good. Recently, just
okay. Oh wait, hold on. All right, favorite new show that's come out in the past 5 years.
Well, let's see, 5 years. Well, obviously The Expanse, right?
I know one I completely forgot to put on my top 5 list, and that's egregious, but I'll name it now. Outlander.
Outlander, really, really excellent. Yeah. Excellent. Okay.
Okay, favorite.
Shadows, excellent. Watch it.
Favorite TV theme tune of all time, and this goes back to Highlander. I love Queen's Princes of the Universe, which is not originally, I mean, it was originally composed before that, but it's used as the theme for the show. That's my favorite. And it's like, even if the show parts of the show itself don't hold up, I could watch the intro to that show over and over. I know Steven will just agree that Queen is the absolute greatest. So can't get better than that.
Can't argue with that. Really, can't argue with that. Yeah. But MASH is the theme song for MASH is like an earworm too. I don't know why. I'm just that old. It gets in there. Do we have any phobias? Wow. Now we're getting a little personal. Okay. I am not bothered by spiders.
Like some people apparently are.
Hey, it's fine. No judgment on that.
No judgment. It's just that's been a point of discomfort over the past couple days. I may or may not have done something regrettable in the Slack to set some people off. So I do apologize for that. I'm sorry.
Oh, let's see, like anything to do with eyeballs. Like you'll see scenes where they're not where they're supposed to be. I just don't like disconnected eyeballs. And also I'm terrified, Kelly. I mean, don't unfriend me or anything. I'm terrified of the open water. Like, I'm terrified of that. Being in a boat on the open water in the ocean just absolutely just terrifies me.
Yeah, for me, the two off the top of my head, heights. I'm extremely terrified of heights, and fitting for what we're doing right now, public speaking.
But that's getting better, John. That's getting better.
It's getting better.
It's getting a lot better.
Oh, and Padar.
Of course, yeah. Padar. I'm afraid of Padar. I'm afraid of even trying to pronounce this word. Fear of riding hippos? I don't know. That would probably be scary. Yeah. All right. Do you see anything else in the...
No, nothing that I'm going to take seriously.
Okay.
Yeah, so unless, we'll give you a chance to put any questions in last minute, but otherwise I guess we'll wrap up. This was a lot of fun. I always have fun talking about Lord of the Rings. Obviously, it's just one of my favorite things ever. It was the original. What?
It's not difficult.
No, it's not. It's the original. It's John's original obsession. So if any of you are maybe ticked off by how much I go on about Kira in the Slack, just imagine that with Lord of the Rings, but about 1,000 times worse. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Your parents were very patient.
Yeah, they were.
All right. I think that's going to wrap it up.
Yeah, and once again, next week, join us for a Con of Thrones discussion. You know, we don't have the convention, but we're going to go ahead and just share memories. My memories will not be the same because I unfortunately was not hanging out with these wonderful people yet, but hopefully we'll have that in the future. And
now I have double FOMO because not only am I missing Con of Thrones, I'm missing talking about it with you guys.
oh, that's right, you're not going to be.
Double FOMO for me.
That's not right.
I will be watching.
So it is going to be me and Steven and guests. See, I kind of forgotten about that. Now I'm just sad. And
Don't be sad. Don't be sad. Don't cry for me, John.
And this will be the last thing that I put up.
Oh, okay. You just want to leave that one up?
Yeah, I'm just going to leave it up till the end.
All right.
All right. Thank you, guys. This was so much fun. And I'll just finish off with Steven's favorite refrain. Be excellent to each other.
Peace.
Peace.